It's time once again to go racing.
It does not get any better than this.
The pressure is really on now.
Yes, it's pole position. Lights out and we're racing in PSGL.
The first lap has been absolute chaos.
What an overtake!
Oh no!
I've never seen anything like it.
Side by side again. This will be settled right at the end.
Everybody, and welcome along to PSGL season number 30. This is the top tier on the PlayStation, and this is the penultimate round of the championship. A champion could be crowned at Imola tonight for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. We will of course take you through the permutations in just a moment and keep you updated as the race goes on. My name is GeForce. I usually do PSF2 on a Monday night. However, Luke Etheridge has been called to work, so he's unable to make it, so I'm stepping in to take you through the top tier action. Joining me in the commentary box though is someone that has been keeping Luke on the straight and narrow for the whole season. Here's of course Mr. Aidan Carter. Aidan, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Jess. Nice to be back in the commentary booth with you once again for the second time in about 3 days, which is really, really nice to see. And yeah, like you say, I've been keeping Luke in line all season long. I've been keeping him on the straight and narrow. But yeah, really excited to move into the penultimate round of the championship now, Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, like you say, at the Imola circuit. And a lot of things to look forward to tonight. Of course, the championship battle is the big one that we've got to look at, isn't it? Is the fight between Isma and Matthew Older. They've been going at it against each other all season long, and it's really come to a head in recent rounds. It's advantage Isma at the moment, but anything can change. It keeps going up and down almost every round we come to at this point, so anything is possible.
Yeah, definitely. And before we start qualifying, we'll take you through some certain stats as well and what Isma needs to do to take the championship tonight as well. If you've seen the Twitter, you probably have seen this, but just in case you haven't as well, it's quite close between the two of them in terms of points difference and amount of wins they've got as well. But in the head-to-head, Matthew Older has beaten some of him on that, but with Isma having some much more decent form than Matthew Older the last couple of weeks, it's advantage Isma going into the final two races. And if Matthew Older finishes 7th or lower in tonight's race, then Isma is crowned champion if he wins and gets fastest lap. Without fastest lap, Matthew will need to finish 8th or lower if Isma wins. If Isma is second, Matthew needs to just be outside the points. And also, constructors could be won tonight if Red Bull be outscored by Williams by 1 point and less, and Williams are champion if Aston Martin being outscored by 9 points or less as well. So potentially we could see a double championship crown from Isma tonight, but it was a bit of a shame about Matthew Older a few weeks ago when we last at USA. He took the gamble staying on the medium tyres, everyone else picked the softs. Isma went and on the alternate strategy, started on the mediums, went on the softs, and it paid off for him, and it just shows the alternate strategy is key, and he was able to take the win there.
Yeah, like you say, it shows the alternate strategy was the key influence in that race, and it was a brilliant performance last time out. And yeah, looking at the stats that we've got for the top two in the championship, it is bizarre, isn't it? Looking at it, because on all faces, it looks like Matthew Older should be dominating this championship. But the problem is when he's not beating Isma, he's scoring really poorly. He's had 3 or 4 rounds this season where he's made a mistake at some point midway through the race or early on in the race and has just never been able to recover from it. I think the Netherlands is obviously an obvious one that stands out there as a track that he could have scored great points at and didn't, and Isma massively capitalised on that. And that is just kind of the way season's been. Matthew Older's maybe pace-wise just had the upper advantage on Isma all season long, but the second that Matthew Older makes a mistake, Isma is right there to capitalise, and that is why he is now leading the championship with 2 rounds to go.
Yes, 129 points versus Matthew Older's 124 points as well. But I'm sure Matthew Older's a little bit hungrier to take a race victory or even outscore Isma to take the championship all the way to Bahrain in a week's time. So without further ado then, let's head to the qualifying session. And we've got an interesting affair in qualifying. You will be expecting to be people on the soft compounder tyres at the moment, but it's not. We're starting with a wet qualifying session for wet tyres. It's going to make things even more interesting. We've got a few people on laps at the moment, but it does throw a curveball. A lot of people have been practicing on the dry, obviously. We don't know what the weather's going to be like in the race. We will check TAD in a second. You can get involved with TAD in a session by typing !help in the chat to find out where your favourite driver is as well. But I don't think the drivers were expecting this when coming into this race tonight.
No, definitely weren't by the looks of things. Just looking at the task system myself at the weather for the race, by the looks of things, we are going to get a cloudy but dry race for proceedings today. So just a wet weather qualifying, but full wet weather qualifying on a mostly dry setup is going to be incredibly difficult around a track that is so punishing like Imola. The first time on the board is going to be Isma in the Williams at 24.2. We don't really know if that's good or not yet. We don't know what's representative, and we don't know whether the track is going to dry out or potentially get even wetter as the session goes on. So this could be the best of the conditions we have in this session. This could be the worst of the conditions. We don't know. It just depends on how quickly the track dries out. But at the moment, no one's got within half a second of Isma on their first runs. Just seeing some more drivers pop in some times down. Keeping an eye on Matthew Ord on his run at the moment, but he's not running any ERS in the middle part of the lap by the looks of things. So I think Matthew Ord already backing off the first lap. And that's another thing about the wet conditions as well. We're going to see these drivers doing multiple laps on the same set of tyre.
Yes, he is looking pretty decent so far, but don't be expecting to see drivers coming into the pits for most of these laps, because the 4 wets, they only get one set of 4 wets for the entire weekend, so expect drivers to be on 1 or 2 laps on the set of wet tyres, and the tyre warm-up may be tricky around here as Matthew Older came across the line in P5 there, 125.0, not the purple in the first, second and third sector, purple first, second and third sector, it is Advantage Isma at the moment, in second place belongs to Santeri at the moment, who had a fantastic race last time out in the United States as well. He was the only driver who gambled on the mediums, and it paid off. He finished third in the end too, and to be honest, he didn't get any penalties, which didn't really help him as well, and he's come into his own since joining midway through the season as well. Yet to pick up that elusive victory. He is so close to Isma at the moment that it could be possible. Dan could just come across the line in P2. He's still mathematically in with a sharper title, but he needs pretty much Matthew Older and Isma to not score in order for that to happen and for Dan Urko to win the next 2 races. But anything can happen in this tier, and it usually does. We've still got more people up to the line. I think Corney's on his next run, and he slots his car into P8 quite close at the moment in terms of lap times. I wasn't expecting that on a full wet track, but I wonder if these drivers have got a bit of a different setup compared to what they're used to at the moment too. But we will obviously have to wait and see, because I think most people will be running some dry setups here for this part of the qualifying session. Valentine up to the line, he can't improve on his time, P13 for him, and Brott, the only driver yet to set a lap time for Zidio, has retired in the pits. I think he's either got a quali ban or he may just binned it on his run, not entirely sure, but more people is starting to improve as well. I think Isma is starting to improve even more on his time. Purple in the middle sector. Once again, 29.2. Matthew Older has gone into P2. He's purple in the final sector. So time's close between the top 2. We'll see what he could do. Heading past Ravatsa and heading to the old Variante Bassa then for the penultimate final corner. Let's see what he could do. Isma up to the line. 124.1. That is absolutely amazing stuff from him. Let's see if Matthew Older can beat that.
Yeah, just riding with Matthew Older at the moment. His first sector really strong on this latest lap, a 10th and a half up already in the first sector. Ogiano now goes into P4 in the Alpine, so a good time from him. But the top 3 are pretty much separated at the moment from the rest of the field. There's a 3/10 gap between Denurco and Ogiano for 3rd and 4th at the moment. Matthew Older through the second sector now, over 3/10 of a second up. So Matthew Older's finding a lot of time on this next run. It's looking a very good run for the second place man in the championship. We'll follow him down to the final 2 corners on the track, see if he can keep it on the road and find even more time in the final part of the lap. I think it's maybe suggesting as well the track is just maybe getting a little bit better for these cars, that the times keep coming down. Santeri now splits the championship leaders at the front of the field. He goes to second, but Matthew Older crosses the line. Loses a little bit of time in the final sector, but it is still the fastest time on the board. A 24th lap for Matthew Older, goes just over a 10th clear. However, cut back to Isma, and he's nearly 4/10 up by the end of the second sector, which suggests to me the track is getting drier and drier, and the track is getting faster and faster.
I'm looking at his fuel mix at the moment on the tower system, and he's running on lean at the moment, which means that he's probably not pushing that much, or maybe he's just quick around this track compared to his rival. Matthew Alder just invalidated his next run, so he'll probably coming into the pits now. Isma with low fuel, 123.8, he's the first man into the 123s. We've got more people finishing their laps once again, as we can see, I think Cornier's just probably backed off a little bit. Jaquita has probably backed off as well. I think we've got, a Ferrari up to the line. That is Fabi as well, currently sitting in 7th position in the qualifying standings at the moment. Let's see what he could do. It's obviously the Tifosi's home track. He has invalidated, unfortunately. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people have invalidated on these runs then, so they're not going to be able to improve at the moment. Interesting fact about Imola, for those of you who don't know, first had a race in motorcycles in 1953, and it hosted the Italian Grand Prix back in 1980, where it wasn't run at Monza, believe it or not, which was quite interesting. But it was mainly the San Marino Grand Prix for quite a bit, and then in 2020 and 2021, and of course 2022, it was the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Facecam is going for his next run as well, and to be honest, the Alfa Romeos don't live too far from obviously this home circuit of Emilia-Romagna as well, so I'm guessing the Ferrari power cars need to do well tonight. Santari doing the best of them at the moment. Orgiano just going through Variante Alto as well. That is a difficult corner of the circuit to get right as well, especially in Iraq. They'll be taking it extremely cautiously at the moment, but we know it's an F1 tier. They'll be pushing right to limits at the moment as a lot of people are going into the pits, and they'll be starting their next runs very shortly.
Yeah, I think proving as well the fact that people are pushing so hard is we're seeing a lot of invalidations, like you mentioned earlier on. A lot of drivers cutting over some of these sausage curves, trying to get as much time out these tyres as they can. I'm just riding with H Eagle through the first sector. He's a little bit down. He's got a lot of understeer in that Red Bull. So wondering whether the wet tyres are just starting to overheat a little bit, or whether the dry setup on that car is just not working in these conditions for the Red Bull man. There is a bit of a field spread now towards the back of the field, especially once you dip into the 25s. It does tend to widen out the gaps quite a bit more, as Matthew Alder in the pit lane at least has put the intermediate tyres on. I think that's just to see what the delta is between the two compound. It still looks fairly wet out there, so I'll be surprised if we see anybody go for the intermediates right now. Maybe towards the end of the session we'll see someone move on to that tyre. Cornet, meanwhile, in the Aston Martin has gone 3rd for him, so that's an improvement on his 5th lap on that wet tyre. Just proving that you can run this wet tyre for a long time and still find time. It's more about trying to find the confidence in the track more than anything else, as Dinerco completely misses the second part of Aqua Minerale but keeps the car valid. So I doubt that this time is going to be improvement. In fact, he's 3 tenths down anyway, so Dinerco's not going to be improving on this lap. But again, proving that even someone as fast as Dinerco finding it really difficult to keep the car on the road.
And we may see an upset in the qualifying session. We may see someone that you probably weren't expect to get pole position, and we've seen the likes of Valentin and Santari that's been looking so good in qualifying. Well, Valentin not doing very well in P12 as well, so it's going to probably come down to experience really in this tier on who's going to get pole. They're so used to the wet conditions compared to some other people that have only been in F1 for either half a season or even a season last season as well. Obviously Matthew Alder has been there for ages. Ismo has been here for a season and a half and has been doing quite well too as well. Fabi has been a F1 veteran for so long, even though he's been in F2 for a few seasons already. So, you know, that could make all the difference right now. But we're seeing more times being posted, but we're seeing more drivers going on to these intermediates and some people staying on the full wet. Jensen does not improve on his lap time, so he's going to go again at this moment in time. And it's still got some damn patch at the moment. You can see with Brock, the way he's positioned in the car, how difficult it is to drive in this McLaren as he heads towards Villeneuve now as well. But there are less puddles than there were at the moment. But to be honest, they don't have long to decide on whether the Inter is the best tyre or not. They'll be looking at the deltas very closely indeed. I'm sure we'll be looking at the TAS system even more as well, and obviously we will keep you updated as much as we can as well.
Yeah, just looking towards the TAS system as well, weather isn't really expected to ease off that much in this session, so it's more about whether the running of these cars around the circuit dries the circuit out in any way, shape or form before the end of the session. But like you say, not long to go for these drivers to make up their mind as to what they want to do. So some drivers are going to either commit to the intermediates and hope they work, or go for another set of wets and play it safe. So we'll see what drivers do. Jensen on a lap now is about half a second up coming through the second sector. So he should jump in probably around where the likes of Oggiano and Asacom are in this order around his teammates should Jensen go, depending on how good his final sector is. Brock was the latest driver to improve up to P5 in the McLaren this week, as Jensen comes up towards the line. Let's see what the Alpine driver can do as he crosses the start-finish line. And he crosses and does a 24.5 and goes just behind his teammate, like I mentioned. So didn't find any more time in that final sector, but has managed to jump himself inside the top 10, as looking on board from Jensen's car, the rain itself looks to have eased off ever so slightly. It doesn't look like the track's any less wet, but the rain itself is eased off. So I wonder if we're now going to see people commit to the intermediate tyres. In fact, we are. Dinoco, Oggiano and Fede are all out on the track on a set of intermediates. Fede will be the first person to go for a lap on the intermediate tyres. It'll be really interesting to follow the AlphaTauri and see what he can do.
Yes, let's actually take you on board a lap around the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. I'm not going to say the whole circuit name because it'll be, I usually pronounce it wrong. It's quite long heading towards turn 1 and 2. You pass Tamburello and you nail those apex quite nicely. Don't take it too much in these wet conditions as well. You can see how quickly the track's drying up, and as Fede unfortunately has invalidated. Who's next on those set of medium tyres? We've got Azuko, who's on the full wets. I don't think, actually, no, I think it's just Fede at the moment, actually. I think everyone else is on outlets. Let's follow Dan Urco as he heads towards Tamburello. Let's see if he could do it a lot better. I think he takes a little bit more speed going into there as well. I think he's just going to avoid that right-hand curve a little bit to avoid the invalidation. You're going to be heading towards Variante Villeneuve. Turn 5 and 6 as you go up the hill. We're going into Tosa now, a corner where we saw Lewis Hamilton bin it, which caused the red flag, I believe, and they were able to change that. Actually, no, it did not cause a red flag, but it allowed him to drop down to, I think, to 9th place, I believe, before the red flag, where we saw George Russell and Bottas collide in 2021. Luckily, it didn't happen in 22. Past Piratella, heading towards Akmaramali as well. You're going to be braking just here into 4th gear a little bit. You're probably going to be in 5th if you're in the dries, of course. But he still seems to be not quite confident in certain parts of the track. Let's see how he does the Variante Alta then. He does that quite well indeed. I think he's catching up to quite a few cars who are on their outlaps. Let's see if they move out of the way very quickly then. He's now going to be heading down the hill in towards Rabazza. Short shifting to around about 3rd gear here on entry. And then 4th on exit. And then final part of Rabazza 2. Going on to the Variante Bassa for the final time on this lap. Can he go quicker than Isma? Nope, he can't. So Isma's time on the wet seems to be good at the moment. Let's see if anyone can go quicker on these intermediate. Santeri can only stay in 6th position. He doesn't improve on his lap time at the moment. Is Matthew Old on the lap? No, Matthew Old is in the pit, so he doesn't think the Inters is quick enough for now. We got Oggiano up to the line as well, and he goes fastest, 123.612. So it shows that the track is drying, and there you go, Isma. He's on a lap now. Well, he's going on an out lap now. He's seen Oggiano's time, and he's like, right, I'm going to go for a lap.
Yeah, he's got to go for a lap now. Surely you've got to react. Even Dinoco's time, only half a tenth off Isma. The track's only going to get faster from here on out, so they can't sit around. What the problem here is for Isma is they've left it so late in the session that he's only going to get one lap in, so he can't afford a mistake on this first lap in this car in these conditions. Just riding on board with Dinoco, and he's going again, and he's 3.5 tenths up in the middle sector, so he's finding yet more time on this lap. Is the Aston Martin driver is across the line. I think went Fede on his second lap. He's gone P8 in that AlphaTauri, so people are just finding more and more time now as the session goes on. Yakitu, I believe, is on the lap in the Mercedes. He's actually invalidated his lap, unfortunately, but we'll ride with Dinoco to the line. Can he now take provisional pole in this session? I wouldn't be surprised if he does, as he comes up towards the line, crosses the line, and it's a 23.3, comfortably clear at the top of the timesheets by 0.3 of a second. Santeri goes just behind him on the front row of the grid. Brock has retired in the pit lane. He's not been able to make it back out in time, and there's 3 drivers that have been caught out quite badly here. Asakone, Valentino and F1 Ferrari are all still on the wet compound tyres, so they are more than likely going to drop right to the back of the field here.
Fabi not looking as good. He's invalidated. Oggiano has unfortunately invalidated his run as well on the intermediate tyres, but I'm guessing he's going to go again. Yes, he does. He has time. And one driver that's gone out a little bit later than Isma, it is Matthew Older down in P7, so he needs to nail his lap, to be honest, because Isma's got a bit of breathing space. Actually, they're going out together as well, so let's hope they don't get caught out in a little bit of traffic, because I think Isma's just going to back off a little bit as well to make sure that he doesn't get the dirty air from Matthew Older. But we still got more people on laps. We've got Valentin. Yeah, Valentin is not invalidated, but he hasn't improved on his time. But I don't think he's going to be higher than he is, because everyone else on the intermediate tyres. We've got, I think, Fede, who just came across the line. He stays in a P7. We've got the Williams car of Isma about to start his final run. We've got the Red Bull, Matthew Older. Interesting story. He missed the cut-off line. So Isma is advantage him at the moment, but Isma's only in P6. Jaquita's in P6 now, and then Urko, another fantastic lap, 1:23.1. Santeri is in pole position. Can Isma beat it? That is bad news for Matthew Older. Surely, if he's ninth for the moment and Isma wins the race, then that's championship over. Matthew Older's got to deliver in the race, but let's see if Isma can improve.
Yeah, I was riding on board with Isma actually on that way to that lap. Isma was behind Matthew Older, and Isma decided to overtake him on the way down to the second Ravazza. That caught Matthew Older out. He had to back off to give himself some space and ended up missing the time. So Matthew Older massively caught out. He went too late out of the pit lane. I said they were cutting it fine. I didn't realise they were going to cut it that fine as more times come up onto the board. Jensen's just gone P6 to make it in an all-Alpine third row on the grid at the moment. Got to keep our eye on Isma to see what they're doing. H Eagles on a lap at the moment. He's improving, currently down in 13th position. Can he out-qualify his teammate here tonight? Yes, he can. He goes 10th. Fede's unfortunately invalidated, so he won't be improving. Isma is finding time. Is it enough to get back on provisional pole, though? It will be amazing if he can for his championship fight. If he can get onto pole position for this race. Anywhere near the front would be great as well as he crosses the line. And he does. Wow. What a final sector from Isma. That final sector was massive from the Williams man. And he's put himself 3/10 clear at the top of the timesheets on a 22.7. He left it so late in the session, but he's absolutely nailed it. And Matthew Older's been massively caught off guard.
Yes, and he's down in 12th position as well, so that is outside the points as well, and it is hard to overtake at Imola as well, and there's no alternate strategy because the drivers will have the free choice of tyres due to the fact that it is a wet qualifying session. So bad news for Matthew, good news for Isma. As it stands, if it stays like this, Isma will be champion, but points don't get scored in qualifying, they get scored in the race then. So we'll look at the sector times. Orgiano actually got the fastest first sector with a 26.720. All the other fastest sectors belong to, you guessed it, Isma, a 28.6 in the middle sector. And like you were saying earlier, 27.4, 2 temps clear of the rest of the field in that final sector. Absolutely incredible. As we're just waiting for Fede to go into the pits. Pretty much most people have been setting personal best in this session. Dernurko setting personal best in the first, second and third sector for him as well. Max Wiesel lost time in the middle sector, so he could have been probably high. He could have beaten Dernurko as well, but we'll see how they go in the race. So your order then for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix: Isma, your championship leader, in P1, Santeri in P2, Dernurko P3, Max Wiesel P4, Cornet in P5, Orgiano P6, Jensen P7, Fabi in P8, Jaquita P9, and H Eagle in P10. Then we got Fede, Matthew Older, Brock, Azacombe, Valentin, and F1 Ferrari, and then Fazzulo did not set a lap time. So that is your order then as well. I was expecting it to be full wets for the entire session. We got completely different outcomes, but that just shows what approximate weather does to you.
Yeah, it definitely does, doesn't it? It caught a few drivers out, like you mentioned, and the ones, like I said, in that session that were still out on the wet compound tyres when everybody else was going out on the intermediates did get caught out completely. So a lot of people down to the back of the field that may be a bit out of position. Asacombe, who's been so strong in quali recently, down at the back. Both McLarens of Brock and Valentin especially at the back of the field as well. Valentin, of course, has been well on pole position already this season. He's only been in this championship for about 4 rounds, but he's had a pole position, obviously at Singapore, with an incredible lap time. And now we come into the race, and what lovely conditions, what opposite conditions for the race, but what lovely condition to see. It is bright and sunny, which is really, really nice to see. And yeah, like you mentioned at the end of that qualifying session, this takes out that whole alternate strategy kind of play for a lot of the drivers further down the field. For Matthew Older, a 12th place position on the grid wouldn't be that bad because the alternate strategy here is fairly strong. However, there's multiple people in front of Matthew Older that could go for the same strategy and get him caught out.
Well, Isma would only need to finish second with the fastest lap if Matthew was 11th or lower, so that's going to be interesting. So Isma doesn't even need to win the the race in order to take the championship as it stands as well. But we know at Imola as well how Matthew Alder is quick. But this is the first time we've been to Imola, I believe, at PSGL on the PlayStation side. Obviously, the PC were at Imola last week, and that was crazy with the alternate strategy as well. And obviously, some PC tiers had a little bit of rain as well. And before we start the race, we'll just have a quick reminder of our sponsors. Make sure you check our sponsor, Grid Rival. Racing has never been this fun. You can join our F1 2022 Fantasy League by going on to premiersimgl.com/Grid Rival. The link is in the description, so please check that out. Make sure you also follow us on Twitter at premiersimgl and Instagram at premiersimgl, and also subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't already. So without further ado, let's go into the race. Thank you to those of you that just joined us from the other tiers as well. And due to the fact that they now have free tyre choice, due to the fact that it's a wet qualifying session, we have got pretty much everyone, apart from Dan Arco and Jensen, that's on the medium tyres. Probably what I was expecting, to be honest. But Dan Arco probably wants to get a good start straight away, I think. Would Dan Arco and Jensen probably be thinking there could be an early safety car? We saw in F2 earlier on as well, if you're watching that, there was an early safety car that happened, I think, lap 5, lap 6, I believe. So probably they've been watching that race and thinking it could also happen here. But the mediums, they're probably thinking there could be no safety car at the early point in the race. So it's a big risk for everybody as well. But, you know, it is a good decision for people to be on the mediums if they do have the choice, of course. We're going to have a similar amount of choice in next year's game as well. And we could see the same thing.
Yeah, we definitely could see the same thing on the next game, like you say, with this mandatory tyre for qualifying, kind of this rule taken out. Is going to make strategy a little bit more interesting, isn't it, on the next game? But yeah, if this is a regular race with no safety cars, you've got to go for the alternate strategy. On pretty much every track, the alternate strategy is the faster strategy. It's just you're usually out of position if you have to start on the alternate strategy. So yeah, not surprised to see the majority of the field go through. Denarco third. I think Denarco thinks he can get into the lead by turn 1 with the better start on the soft compound tyres. If he can do that and drive away at the front, that is great for him, but it's also not a bad thing as well for the likes of Isma and Santeri. If they just let Denarco go, Denarco's not in their race in this early phase of the race. They've just got to let the Aston Martin go if he is right behind them.
Yes, we're about to get started then. 17 drivers are going to be racing a 32-lap race around Imola today as well, formerly known as San Marino, now the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. The 5 lights are coming on then for PSF1. Can Isma take the championship tonight? We'll have to wait and see. And it is lights out and away we go. And it looks like Isma has had a really good start, actually. I think Santeri has been caught off guard, and I think Denarco has had a good start on the soft, so he could get Isma heading towards Tamburello into turn 2, but he backs off a little bit as well. We're looking at the other soft runner of Jensen as well. He stays in P6 for now, and he's dropped back a little bit, and his teammate trying to get past him as well, Vargiano, and Brock has made a few positions as well, up into 12th position. Fusilio did not get the best of starts either. Valentine up to 12th, and we've seen people trying to go around the outside into Toto then as well. Denarco doing exactly the same thing into Pirotello as well. Can he keep it clean on exit? Yes, he does. Denarco takes the lead of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, but he's on the soft, so you expect the soft runners to go even quicker than the mediums. But I'm surprised Jensen is not able to do the same thing.
Yeah, Jensen just got a little bit boxed in at turn 1. It's so tight on the way into Tamburello. You can't really go anywhere. Jensen thinking about a move on Cornet, potentially down into the chicane, but just not close enough. Matthew Alder, crucially as well, he's up 2 places from his grid spot. He's passed Fede and his teammate H-Eagle, and he's already onto the back of Yukita for a run down towards the first of the Ravazzas. Can he get down the inside of the Mercedes? He's super late on the brakes, but he gets the move done, and Matthew Alder up another position and into P9 and into the points. So yeah, Matthew Alder starting his charge back through the field now. Denarco then leads like he should have really needed to do on that soft compound tyre. Isma following closely behind. The next person for Matthew Alder is Fabi, and Fabi is a little bit detached from the drivers in front. Down the inside goes Matthew Alder, again very late on the brakes. Nothing Fabi can do, and Matthew Alder's up 4 places in 1 lap.
Yeah, so he is hungry for it. I did say he needed to get the results he needed to tonight in order for him to stay in the championship fight, and he's definitely doing it at the moment, as we're starting to see people try to close in on this train. DRS will be activated on lap 3, don't forget, so we will see some more moves being made very soon as well, and you can see how many positions are gained using the exclamation mark help system as well in the chat, so that'll be very, very great to see. We can actually get it up on screen for you if you want to as well. Jensen has gained 1 place, and obviously Dan Erkin from third has gained 2 places, and Basilio, Valentin have also gained quite a bit as well. We've got Brock trying to get past Fede into Tamburello, couldn't quite make it work, unfortunately. He stays behind for the time being. A few people will be getting just a little bit patient for now because they don't want to get involved in too many incidents, which could cause a safety car as we head towards that 3. There's only 1 DRS zone around this track, and that's heading towards the start-finish straight, so no detection points for the time being, as Danerco just set in the fastest lap. But we are starting to see the top 2 start to break away a little bit from the rest of the pack, which is bad news for the likes of Santeri, Max Wiesel, Cornet and Jensen as well. But Jensen looks like he could get Cornet heading towards Villeneuve as well, but with the dirty air it's not going to help at all. But with the new game, I'm assuming Jensen would have definitely gone to try for the move, as Cornet has got a bit squirmy on exit. Jensen almost had a look past Cornet heading in towards Tosa down the inside, but he wasn't able to do it on that occasion, to stay in pit position. So Jensen's tyres must be hurting. He's going to be the first driver to pit as well. Not what he would have wanted at the moment. And look at Dan Nerco's pace on those softs. 1.4 seconds compared to Isma as well. This could be huge, but don't forget Isma's tyres will be quicker towards the end there as well. So we'll watch Isma's pace towards the end of the race. But at the moment, Dan Nerco is on fire, and this is what he needs to do to stay in this fight. But with the other 2 not scoring.
Yeah, he needs to hope for a bit of bad luck for Isma Mathiolda, like you say. But the problem for Isma here, he's burnt all of his ERS desperately trying to keep up with Danerco to, well, really no avail at all. He's not kept up, and now he's under massive pressure from Santeri behind, who's been able to hold on to a bit more ERS. So again, Isma, race strategy wise, we've seen this a couple of times this season where Isma kind of pushes too hard early on and pays the price for it later on. Again, I think Isma's doing the same thing. He's just pushing too hard, desperately trying to keep up with Danerco, not realising that Danerco's on a completely different strategy and in a completely different race, and he doesn't need to fight it. And it is just allowing the Aston Martin to get further and further up the road and puts Isma under more and more pressure further down the field. Jensen does get past Cornet and up into the top 5. Max Wiesel will be his next target, but Jensen again just starting to get a little bit stuck in that train of medium runners now. The train of medium runners is now split down from 9th back. Fabi just can't keep up with the drivers in front in that Ferrari, so he's starting to split the field in half at the moment in that 9th position. And yeah, Danerco just continues to pull away, but as I said, Danerco's in a completely different race here.
Yep, he is, compared to the rest of the field as well. And I think Santeri is looking to get past Isma on the next lap as well. And then we can see how quicker he is on the last lap as well. Currently sitting in P3 as Santeri set in purples in the middle sector, about a tenth quicker than Isma as well. And I'm sure that the middle sector is where Santeri gains the most time at the moment. But I think we're looking at, obviously, Isma's middle sector, and probably Isma's middle sector is going to set the timing screens alight. But no, Dan Erker is still fastest. So we can see then Santeri has the DRS and the straight line speed. I don't think Isma was challenging Santeri for that. Heading towards turn 2 into Tamburello, and Santeri is in P2 at the moment on the set of these medium tyres. Jensen now is up into 4th position. Matthew Older stays in 8th position as well, as more people starting to make their way up the field. And I think Max Wiesel is struggling a little bit, passing towards the Villeneuve chicane as well. And we've got 3 trains now, haven't we? We've got, obviously, Dan Erk on his own. We've got Santeri leading this little train. Then we've got the likes of, I think, Fabi and Fede for the battle for the final point as well, which can make a difference between certain positions in this championship, because some people may not be aiming for, obviously, the constructors or the drivers, but they'll be aiming for some midfield points just to get into even the top tier this season as they head towards Akamaral at the moment. So Fabi, Fede, Valentino, don't forget, DNF last time out on the first lap, got caught in the SS in the USA as well. He's still in this race, and he's looking a bit of a threat to Fede at the moment. Not quite as fast compared to him right now, but he's just taking his time.
Yeah, just taking his time, like you say. I'm just keeping an eye on the pace of 2 other people. Since Santeri's passed Isma, Santeri has got some really good pace on those medium tyres. He nearly dropped Isma on that lap. He's used a bit of his ERS to do so, but he's actually closed in on Danerco on that lap by 0.3 of a second. So Santeri has got some good pace in that car. Jensen thinking about a move on Isma, but not quite close enough into Tamburello. The braking zone's just too short for Jensen to try a move there. The other driver I'm looking out for is Yukita. He's managed to break away from Fabi and almost got, well, he did just get within DRS range of Matthew Older. He's lost it again at Tamburello, but he is right there now. So he's managed to break away from that train behind and close in on the train in front you see on this game is seeing drivers drop one train and catch another. So Nikita looks like he's got good pace on those medium tyres, but especially Santeri on the mediums. The second he got past Isma, he was already starting to close back in on Danerko. We're only on lap 6.
Yes, anything can happen with Nikita at the moment. Nikita's also looking for a good result for this as well. He's been consistent in some races as well, but he's only dangerous on fuel right now on the yellow warning light, so he probably thinks a safety car could happen. As what's happened to Fede? Fede's dropped quite a few positions actually. I thought he was fine with Fabi for a minute then, but he's been overtaken both by Valentin and by Brock then, so I wonder if he just lost it in one of the chicanes or after Akamura Ali, I don't know, or maybe just losing the grip on those medium tyres. So he's got definitely a lot of work to do compared to everybody else, and he's dropping already to Brock, and we got H Eagle that could get Fede down the inside into Tamburello if he's not careful right now. But let's jump on board to Jensen, who's looking dangerously close on the back of Isma, but can't quite get it on this occasion. Don't forget Williams and Aston Martin, well, they're in the fight for the constructors in PSF1 as well. Jensen's got nothing to fight for, but he's going to do all he can to make sure he can get his best result in the PSF1 as they head towards Tosa at the moment. And he's running low on ERS as well compared to obviously the likes of Cornet behind. I think they're pretty much on the same actually as well. So they are, it is hard to charge ERS around here, as I noticed as I did a race around here. There's not many braking zones apart from obviously Tosa and a little bit into Akamura as well. So I'm guessing they're probably going to try and save it when they go into the pits, or maybe they just got to have a lap where they try to save a bit of battery as well. So we're obviously going to keep an eye on that. Pit stops, I would say, got to be around about lap 10, lap 11 if you're on the softs. If you're on the mediums going on to the set of softs, you're probably going to be around about lap 20, 21, 22-ish before the soft tyres really start to get into gear. But we'll obviously have to wait and see on that one. Danerko still leads, 2.7 seconds. Then it's Santeri, then it's Isma, who doesn't look like he's a threat to Santeri yet. But Jensen looks like he's going to be a threat to Isma at the moment as well. Santeri was actually struggling there into Tamburello. I don't know what's happened there as well, but can Isma capitalise on there as well? It looks like it could be free abreast, heading towards Villeneuve chicane at turns 5 and 6. We'll see what these two can do at the moment. Jensen could play the back seat at this, and he's probably done the right thing just to stay behind for now. But Santeri was comfortably ahead of Isma on that lap, but he lost a bit of traction, I think, going in towards turn 1 and 2 of Tamburello. That is a shame. That could put Isma right back into it.
Yeah, definitely put Isma right back into it. Santeri's car doesn't seem to be all that fast in a straight line by the looks of things. He's, like you mentioned earlier on, very good in the middle part of the lap, but I think he's compromising himself down the straight line because Isma caught him so much by the end of the straight. I don't think Isma wanted to go for the move, but he was under threat from Jensen, so he almost had to stop Jensen from overtaking him. So, yeah, Isma maybe kind of forced into a bit of a hard spot there, trying to not overtake but also not get overtaken at the same time. So, yeah, a little bit difficult there for Isma, and that's cost him a bit more time to Danerko in this race. Further down the field, Valentin's managed to get past Fabi and up into 10th position, and now Valentin has been able to drop the Ferrari from his DRS range. So McLaren a little bit on his own now at this point in the race as he now tries to catch the queue of cars in front. Down towards Tamburello they come once again. Isma again very fast in a straight line compared to Santeri, but not closer this time around. Stays behind the Alfa Romeo and no threat from Jensen behind. So Isma keeps the third place for the time being. I've been keeping an eye as well on warnings and track extensions around here. They are very common. It is very easy to jump over a curb and pick up a warning here. It is very tempting to do so. And one driver that's really struggling on warnings right now is Matthew Older, already on 2 after 5 laps in this race. Nikita's on 2 as well. So there's a lot of drivers in this field that are picking up warnings early on in this race. And as I was saying about Valentin working his way forwards, he's just took 2 wheels into the gravel coming out of the Villeneuve chicane and lost a lot of time.
And I think Fabi's going to get P10 in the process if Valentin's not careful as well. And the tyre temperatures for Valentin, I think he's just getting a bit more tyre temperature on these mediums. And he's going to be wrestling those mediums for another, I would say, 10 or 11 laps. So if I was Valentin, I would better get a move on, because otherwise Fabi is going to send it down the inside and maybe do a Hulkenberg see you later or do a Daniel Ricciardo set. We'll obviously have to wait and see. As we're heading towards lap 10 of 32 now, we've got our first pitter of Danerko. That is a bit earlier than what I would have thought, but we did see people on the PC tier do that as well, so it is to be expected. So Danerko will be going on to a set of medium tyres, and that will go to the end of the Grand Prix. Soft 2 mediums. Isma tries to go down the inside into Tamburello on Santeri. This time he makes it work, but Santeri is struggling with those mediums for quite a while now, and he is now your race leader. Don't expect Jensen to be staying out on this track for that much longer. Jensen will be going into the pits very, very shortly indeed to change onto his mediums and respond to pretty much the undercut that Danerko is facing at the moment. Danerko is 17th at the moment, but obviously with the medium runners going to pit later on as well, he will jump further up the grid later on as well. But if there's a safety car, Danerko could be in a lot of trouble.
Yes, like you say, especially if there's a safety car, Danerko is in a lot of trouble in this position. And the problem for Danerko is that Jensen is the only one on the same strategy as him. So when everybody comes in from the mediums to the soft compound tyre, it's just going to be a train of soft runners charging at Danerko later on in this race. That's going to be very daunting for the Aston Martin and difficult to hold back those drivers behind, especially considering Jensen at the moment at least is just struggling to work his way forward. He's gained a few places, but now that he's got behind Isma and Santeri, he just can't get any further. So yeah, would not be surprised if we see Jensen into the pit lane very soon. He's staying out for another lap. I would have expected Danerko to go maybe 3 or 4 laps longer just because we haven't used these softs in qualifying, so they can go that little bit further, and that would just help him that little bit more later on in the race. So yeah, still a fairly early pit stop considering the fact that they didn't run the drier tyres in qualifying. Looking further down again, it's kind of ebbing and flowing throughout this train at the moment. One lap it looks like Matthew Old is about to pass Ogiano. The next lap he's dropped back into the clutches of Yukita, and then Valentin likewise looks like he's about to break DRS to Fabi and then makes a mistake in the later part of the lap, and Fabi's right back in his range again. So a lot of drivers, at least in this race so far, kind of struggling to keep a consistent pace at the moment. We've seen it from the leaders as well. Isma struggled early on, Santeri passed him, and then almost immediately roles were reversed and Isma was all over the back of Santeri again.
Yeah, I think we could see a ding-dong battle between these two later on in the race before those two head into the pit, so do watch out for that too. And I think Danerko is starting to gain on Attico once again as well, but not too much because Danerko's tyre is struggling a little bit to warm up, but there we go, he's getting a little bit more time, so he's back to his normal pace as well. He's got some clear air as well. He was hoping he won't go into any traffic, which he does not, so that's going to help him try to minimise any effect of the undercut, which everybody else won't be doing at the moment, as Jensen goes into the pits for his one and only stop of this race. And now we go, Santeri is going to swap positions again from Isma, heading towards turn 2, and it's going to be, I think, a DRS tactic game. I think we saw that in USA not last week, 2 weeks ago, because obviously last week everyone was on there break week. I think we all saw it in Jeddah as well during the season. We saw a few people changing positions, I think, in turn 27, but I think we're going to see the same into Tamburello once again. We even saw in PCF2 the lapped cars coming into play as well. We thought that obviously the one guy in P1 would not get the DRS. He actually did, and he went on to win the race. So we could see some lap cars come into the equation, and that could happen, but no one is obviously a lap down yet. They're also close to each other, so that won't play a massive factor. But well, I think Isma's just got to play the long game. He's got to know when, obviously, he'll have DRS, and if he won't have DRS when he needs to, he's probably just going to have to stick behind Santeri for one more lap than he needed to, and then get the DRS that he needed to get past. And maybe Santeri will probably be thinking the same thing as well. There are some, obviously, Jeff's probably watching as well, having a slight idea on what's going to happen at the moment. But I know Isma's going to go for it. He's got the ERS to use as well, but oh, I think he's going to go for it. Yep, he is going to go for it this time under the Made in Italy banner then for the 13th time this race. And now it's Isma that takes the lead. I was surprised he went for the move there as well, with Santeri not managing to get the move done there. But I wonder if Santeri's reading Isma's games at the moment. As Brock gets past Fabi then up into 9th place, as Fabi is now ahead of Fede up into P11. H Eagle is up into 12th position. Orgiano has got the first 3-second time penalty of the session. Surprised that has came this late on at the moment, which shows how clean they are in track limits. But like we said, we are keeping an eye on the warning situation, obviously, with Isma being in P1, and I don't think he's got the fastest lap at the moment. However, Matthew Older in 6th, the championship will go down to the final race, as Matthew Older will need to finish 7th or lower at this stage. So at the moment, the championship could go to Bahrain as it stands, according to the permutations, of course.
Yeah, according to the permutations, like you say, as it stands, we've got a yellow flag. That's Fusillo that's crashed out. Is that going to be any sort of safety car? I wonder. It's a virtual safety car. They can change to a full safety car. We'll see if that does happen or not, but by the looks of things, that isn't going to be the case. Does anybody come into the pits? I'd be surprised if they do. The hard compound tyres here, not a fast tyre whatsoever. You don't want to be on the hard tyres around here, and you would not get a set of softs to the end of the race from here. So, yeah, not surprised to see nobody come into the pit lane, and I think that's a bit of a breath of a kind of a sigh of relief, I would say, for a lot of the medium runners at the front of the field. I think if a full safety car came out, they would have been in a real spot of bother, and Danerko and Jensen would be in a very good position coming towards the end of this race. So the virtual safety car, I think, is a good sight for these drivers. It's just a little bit of a breather on their mediums. They can cool them down if they need to. One thing I was going to say before that virtual safety car came out, Cornet passed Max Wiesel on the previous lap at the same time as Isma was going back into the lead. And Max Wiesel recently has been really struggling to keep his ERS and keep up with the top two. Cornet as well. Cornet was trying to bridge the gap between the two of them. Cornet had just lost DRS range, and Max Wiesel had just lost DRS range on the back of Cornet. So it seems like, once again, Max Wiesel is the cork in the bottle at the front of this field. He's really struggling on those medium tyres to keep pace with the drivers in front. This virtual safety car will help him build up a bit more ERS, so that will help him at least in that sense. But raw pace-wise, he's really struggling as Oggiano to cap off what's been a rough couple of laps for the Alpine. He's got a drive-through penalty for proceeding under the virtual safety car. Matthew Alder's going to try and get past him as quickly as he can, but he'll get DRS down the pit straight, and Oggiano will probably dive into the pit lane anyway, so it's not going to be too much of a bother for Matthew Alder here as they come out of the final Ravazza, and Oggiano does dive into the pit lane for that drive-through penalty. So Matthew Alder now up into 5th position, but crucially for him, he's the lead is now really spread out. Santeri goes back into the lead, Isma drops into 2nd, Cornet's now closed in on these drivers, but they've dropped Max Wiesel and Matthew Alder on in this virtual safety car period.
Yeah, they have as well. I wonder if people are starting to lose their rhythm a little bit as well. But I think the top three are really at their own at the moment. Cornet, I think, has been looking so good in this race as well. Maybe he could be a cork at the bottom as well. Because don't forget, Aston Martin are still within a chance of claiming that Constructors' Championship. Basically, as it stands, Williams, I believe, will need to outscore by a few amount of points to take the Constructors' Championship. And obviously, with Cornet doing very well, this could be possible. I believe he's obviously got Danerko for company as well. I think Danerko is happy that his teammate is running well with the medium train as well. And with no rain on the horizon as well, he's probably going to be relieved about that as well, with Max Wiesel, I think, dropping a little bit more. So yes, he's out of this train, and Matthew Alder's going to get him sooner or later. He's got the ERS battery to boot too, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem as they head towards Ravazza then, as people get a lovely view there when he watched the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. I kind of wish I had a house like that at this moment in time. He's got the DRS. Surely it's going to be a move for Matthew Alder to try and do so. He's going to go for it, and he does, and he gets P4. Isma does the same on Santeri for P1 of this race. So at the moment, the lead chops and changes once again, but that's going to be there for quite a while, so not very surprising. But if these two keep squabbling, Cornet could go for the lead as well, because that's how much he's gaining at the moment, Cornet, on that lap. Was Cornet's last lap a 117.1? Isma's last lap was a 117.7. So he was looking quite slower compared to Santeri at the moment. Santeri's 116.8. So Santeri, Isma and Cornet has been the one that's been the most consistent out there as well. But Santeri only in P2, so he's playing the long game at the moment. A few more laps though, the drivers will be coming in for a set of the soft compounded tyres, but the track temperatures are getting a little bit cooler. It's not as clear as it once was at the start of this Grand Prix as well, but they're probably going to be relieved to get those medium tyres off and the softs back on, because you do notice a difference. I notice a difference when I league race as well. It's absolutely huge. It just feels like you got more grip after being on the mediums since the start of lap 1.
Yeah, the difference in tyres is pretty massive here as Max Wiesel to cap off. Again, what's been difficult is actually Matthew Alder's into the pit lane already. Wow, that is early. That is very early. So slap bang in the middle of the race. Matthew Alder has come in as Santeri once again repasses Isma into turn number 1. That is for a fresh set of soft compound tyres. I can understand why Matthew Alder's done it. He's got a 3-second gap to the net leaders in this race. He wants to try and close that gap down. However, surely he's just going to be a sitting duck at the end of the race on tyres that are going to be 16 laps old. They're going to be fairly worn by then. And will he be in puncture territory as he comes out of the pit lane? He is behind Oggiano, who of course has served that drive-through, but not pitted yet. Crucially as well, Matthew Alder is quite a distance away from Danerko. Danerko is quite comfortably up the road here from these drivers. So Yeah, that is a good old lead that Danako has ahead of Matthew Oda. Of course, Matthew Oda fresh softs will be very, very fast, but has he thought too much about what's happening right now and not thought too much about the end of the race? I can understand the early stop to try and bridge the gap, but surely 16-lap-old soft compound tyres by the end of the race are just going to make him a sitting duck to everybody else whose tyres could be 3 or 4 laps fresher.
We saw Matthew Oda make a mistake last week when he stayed on the medium tyres where everyone else on the safety car went for the soft compound tyres. It's a bit of a risk to take for Matthew Oda as well, but the softs can only last 13 laps, but probably the engineers think that he could possibly do it. So if he can do it, fair play. If not, his championship is at stake. And to be honest, Matthew Oda does not want to lose the championship due to him being on the wrong strategy. So for our sake, because we want the championship to go to the final race, let's hope he can recover and pull that undercut to perfection at the moment, as we're seeing more people responding to Matthew Oda's undercut then. So Matthew Oda has just got ahead of Orgiana, obviously Orgiana on some old mediums, so the undercut working quite well there, but we'll watch to see if Chiquita and Brock could get past Matthew Oda in a few laps time as well. And Matthew Oda just 3.2 seconds behind Jensen. Let's see if he can catch up, but we have seen a few races this week in the PC and the PS tiers that sometimes the soft tyres were not the viable tyre for the alternate strategy. For some tiers it was, so it does depend on the actual pace that they once have as well. So we'll have to wait and see. So we've got Isma and Santeri. I don't think they're going to go into the pits, but saying that, they probably will, as F1 Ferrari does get a freezing time penalty as well. None of those two are budging into the pits. Cornet stayed out, so does Max Wiesel as well. We got Valentin. Is he thinking of coming in? Yes, he does. Max Wiesel's in too. Azakone surely will have to respond and go for that move as well. Santeri does get past Isma once again up into P1 of this race, and to be honest, it's going to be between those two for the race victory at the moment, but don't count obviously the ones that just pitted out. Their tyres are going to be dead towards the end, so we're going to be in for a crazy end to the Grand Prix, and I can't wait for this. And we'll see as Matthew Oda just set the fastest lap of the race there, so he is pushing already. I thought he wasn't going to be pushing that much though. His tyre's going to be dead.
Yeah, he's pushing very hard. I've been watching Matthew Oda this whole lap. He is taking a lot of liberties with the track at the moment. I'm amazed he's not got a warning on this lap. He's been flying over some of these sausage curbs around this track. He's pushing very, very hard indeed. He would have bridged the gap, I think, by now to the top 3 in this race by the time they pit. It's just dependent on, like you say, whether the softs can last from here on out. He is pushing so hard that he could be potentially overheating these tyres very, very soon. His next target is Jensen, of course, who's on the regular strategy. He's the first of those drivers on that regular strategy then that he's going to have to come up against, and he could get him down the pit straight this time around. He won't want to waste any time behind Jensen. He'll have to try and get this move done as quickly as he can. As into the pit lane comes Santeri and Cornet, and Santeri has sped into the pit lane, so what was looking like a great opportunity for Santeri to win this race, he's just given himself a massive handicap with that 5-second penalty. However, Isma stays out. We've seen this multiple times this season where Isma stays out a lot longer than everybody else. He's doing it again, but on the alternate strategy. Now, if a late safety car comes out, that plays beautifully into Isma's hands, but right now, he could be dropping behind Matthew Oda, potentially behind Chiquita on the road here, as out of the pit lane comes Cornet and Santeri, and Matthew Oda here is going to be ahead of the pair of them. Yes, he is. So Matthew Oda's in the net lead of this race with this early undercut. He is in the net lead of this race now, and if Isma were to pit now, there is a potential that he could be in a net 5th.
That is what Matthew Oda needs right now as well, because he's had not the best of races a few weeks ago, and to be honest, he was just playing the patient game as well. It's not the first time if we'll see Matthew Oda go from 12th on the grid to win the race. We've seen that in many races in his PSGL career as well, so he knows how to do it as well. There are some smart engineers in the team that he's in as well to plan that strategy as well. He is one of the most experienced, actually the experienced driver on the PS side as well, and I think it's not going to be that long before he moves to the PC side as well. Quite a lot of these guys will probably move to PC if they haven't already. Isma is in and to the pit stand, which will give Danako the lead of this race, but the soft runners are going to come pushing and pushing right now, so Danako could get swamped anytime soon, and Isma, the danger of the undercut is probably coming back to bite him right now, as Matthew Oda, I think, is going to be comfortably ahead of him at the moment in time. I think he is. Yes, he is, as correctly predicted. Isma is now in 6th position, not 5th, so he's lost one more place than we thought he was going to get. Jensen is up to 5th as well, but he's got obviously the medium tyres to contend with, so he's probably Isma's going to get past him sooner or later as well. And pretty much the ones on the softs are being left for dust right now. Dernurko is going to be passed by all the soft runners. Santeri has passed Matthew Older as well, so Santeri's pit stop to perfection there was very, very close on the pit exit, not going to lie. So shame about his penalty, because without his penalty, Santeri could have been on course to take his first PSGL win in the top tier.
Yeah, without that penalty, like you say, Santeri was in a great position. But look at that. Already Santeri has almost dropped Matthew Older. In fact, has dropped Matthew Older from his DRS range. So we're only 4 laps into the stint, and Matthew Older is already struggling on these soft compound tyres. It was worth it to get up there, but is he going to pay the price too soon? I think the one person here who's in a great position is Cornet in this race. Currently 4th on the road. Should make easy work of Matthew Older down this back straight, and then could be within penalty, well, is within penalty range of Santeri, and could very well be within penalty range of his teammate Dernurko as well very soon. As there goes Cornet easily past Matthew Older, and at the same time Isma is easily past Jensen and up into 5th position. So Isma's next target on the road is Matthew Older. But again, yeah, Matthew Older almost immediately on the softs. I would have maybe expected it around lap 27, 28 is when he started to struggle. We're only in lap 22. There's 11 laps to go, and already Matthew Older's pace is falling off.
Well, we can actually tell you the amount of tyre wear that they've taken into their tyres as well, on the TAS system as well. And I'm just seeing his tyre life, and yes, I have to agree. Compared to everybody else on the soft tyres, Matthew Older 70% front left, 21% front right, 90% rear left, and 21% rear right. So the rears, he's definitely struggling. The front's not so bad, but the rears are starting to come back to biting him, and now the front is starting to come back to bite him as well. As we're past the second chicane on the variant Alto as well, and we're seeing the Alpine of Jensen. There is tyres obviously starting to wear off a little bit, but Matthew Older's not far near that as well, and he's only on 4 laps of soft, so it just shows how quickly the softs can degrade here at this moment in time. So Matthew Older's got to be a bit more kinder with his tyres. But Santeri looks like he's going to take the lead of the race from Dernurko. The mediums are pretty much maybe the wrong decision for him, and it just shows that the medium soft strategy is just OP around him. And up past Tamburello, heading towards turn 3 now. So Santeri just got to focus now, getting the gap to 3 seconds. If he gets the gap to 3 seconds on Cornet, Santeri will win this race. That is important. We'll keep an eye on his warnings as well. Luckily, the warnings he has got, I think he's only got that 5 second for speeding in the pit lane. He's only on 1 warning, to be fair. But if there's a safety car, he could get that 5 second time penalty removed anyway. So he's pretty clean on track limit front. And obviously, if they pit again and everyone goes on a fresh set of softs, then Dernurko, we want to blame us. Speaking of Dernurko, he's had a bit of a spin. Be careful.
Oh.
Luckily, he's ghosted, as that allows Cornet to come up into second. Matthew Older is now back up into third, but he's now got Isma for company as well. So easy to do for Akamurali as well. He just lost so much heat into the tyres, and we're keeping an eye on Matthew Older now as Isma's trying to pass him as well. And look at the traction that Isma's gaining on Matthew Older, heading towards Rabatza 2. He's got the ERS2 boot as well, and I think Isma is going to get the job done. Easy pickings for him up into 3rd position. I'm keeping an eye on actually Dernurko's tyres, and to be honest, his tyres are pretty much dead at the moment. He's dropped down to 12th place and he's out of the race, speeding in the pit lane. It's a cork in the bottle. What a shame, and that means it could possibly happen. Williams could win the Constructors' Championship. Aston Martin needed 2 drivers to be in the fight tonight. At the moment, we only got 1 of Cornet. So Cornet is flying solo, but Cornet is not on the same pace as Santeri. Santeri is trying to get that 5 second window to Cornet. At the moment, it looks like he's doing it, but he's going to need to find 3 seconds in the next, well, pretty much next 9 or 8 laps. Can he do it? We'll have to wait and see.
You have to wait and see, and the problem now for Cornet is that Isma's right on the back of him once again, only 4 tenths behind Isma, really closing in on the Aston Martin. That would be again advantage Williams if he can get ahead of Cornet and outscore, of course, Isma, the lone Williams tonight as well. So yeah, it is 1v1 now, and it could be advantage Williams very, very soon here as Isma closes in on the back now of Cornet. Matthew Older is just clinging on to DRS of the drivers in front, but I think the second he loses DRS, he could be under big threat from the likes of Yukito, Max Usul, and especially maybe the likes of Valentin. As there you go there, Isma easily past Cornet, and that's for the net lead, of course, with Santeri's 5-second penalty. That puts Isma back into the net lead of this race. He's got to try and keep within 5 seconds, but crucially for him, he doesn't have to win this race on track. He doesn't have to push too hard. He can just save those soft compound tyres further down the field. Brock gets past his teammate and up into 8th position. I think Valentin, though, I don't know if he's decent there. I didn't quite see what happened there, but yeah, Brock up into 8th position and back ahead of Valentin then. So McLaren's 8th and 9th, both in the points as it stands. As Oggiano has retired from the pit in the pit lane as well. Not surprised by that one. That drive-through penalty has completely ruined his race.
Yeah, to be honest, I was surprised he didn't retire earlier. I thought he would have retired a lot earlier due to his drive-through penalty. But he kept going as well. He thought he was going to get some points, but with the way other people are pushing him, the gaps are so big, then yeah, he had no other choice. But what a shame. Let's hope he can fight back next week in the final race at Bahrain, which should be an absolute cracker then. So Isma has got to find pretty much 2.8 seconds to get the lead on track. But at the moment, as it stands, he will take the race victory because Santeri has got that penalty to his name, 5 seconds as well, which is not ideal at the moment in time. No one is able to get a move up front, but we'll keep an eye on Valentin to see if he can get past his teammate. He's got a DRS though, so surely he'll be another easy move once again. Lando Norris versus Daniel Ricciardo, I would say, at the moment, as Valentin gets past Brock up into P8 as they head towards turn 2, and Fabe does the same thing as he gets past Fede up to P10. The final point battle is continuing once again, and it is advantage Fabe on that front at the moment. We're almost to the end of this race. Let us know your predictions on who you think is going to be winning this race, and it can all chop and change at a drop of a hat as well. We see Max Verstappen win in real life, while Matthew Older is only in 4th position right now, but surely he will want to have a Max Verstappen style performance if he wants to win this race, because the gap is, well, to be honest, the gap is just so close between the top two. Any advantage that any of these two have, it could swing in their favour as Matthew Older goes a bit wide into Variante Alta. 3 second time penalty. Well, we saw how it costed him last time out in USA. Could it cost him in Imola? Well, there's a gap between himself and Jensen. He should be fine. So I think the only position he's going to lose is probably to Chiquita, but even Chiquita's a little bit further back. So it's a too close for comfort in the moment. As long as Chiquita doesn't gain about 3 tenths on him, he should stay in 4th position. But yeah, his chance of a win is pretty much gone now because Isma has got no penalties as Valentin gets past Jensen on fresher tyres and softer tyres up P7. Much better result this time out for Valentin in that McLaren. He could be on for a very good result in this top tier in Imola as well. Good redemption going into the final round as well.
Yeah, great redemption, like you say, going into the final round. So, yeah, Valentin working his way forwards. The problem, I think, more for Matthew Older with that penalty is that drops him out of range of Santeri. So I think if he'd kept it penalty-free, he would have been within Santeri's range and would have snuck a podium here. That's not going to happen anymore. He's not close enough to the back of Santeri to be able to capitalise on that. So that's more of his worry. Yukita is just falling further and further back now from this top 4 in this race. So Matthew Older should be safe from behind, but of course we know he pitted the first of all of these drivers on soft compound tyres, so he's still got to think about tyre wear towards the end of this race, and we don't know, of course, well, we do know how bad his tyre wear is. His highest tyre percentage at the moment is 42%, which is pretty high for this stage of the race. He should get to the end of the race no problem in terms of tyre wear, but they're not going to be particularly fast. He's just kept DRS this time around, but I think the second he drops from DRS range, that is opportunity for Yukita to close back in a bit more on the back of the Red Bull. So yeah, he's desperately trying to hold on to the back of Cornet, but as of right now, not quite working for him. And it's kind of been the story of the race so far. Matthew Older has not really had a lot of paces. Jensen and Brock now going side by side through Tamburello. Brock trying to move around the outside, just couldn't get the move done. He wasn't far enough alongside the Alpine to get up into 8th position, but I think it's just a matter of time before Jensen loses this position. And yeah, like I was saying, all race long, qualifying obviously didn't go his way, but even in the race, Matthew Older has been on the fringes of losing DRS on multiple occasions. He's really struggled in this race. There's another yellow flag. Yeah, Fede's had a spin. You had a spin down at Villeneuve.
Yeah, just before Toto as well, so that is his chance to get him points out the window as well. I think he's been struggling ever since that spin into the Variante Alta earlier on in this race, which is a bit of a shame, and let's hope he can recover. He's still got, I think, a few attempts to find on H-Eagle as well, because H-Eagle has got a 3-second time penalty too. So he's in less danger than he was, but he's only going to probably finish in 12th position at the moment then as well. Santari's got to find pretty much all he can, all of his fibre at the moment, to try and get in that 5-second window, but he's not able to do so at the moment. So for the second race in a row, he's going to be on the podium, but a step higher. It's going to be P2, but surely he would want it to win. Meanwhile, Brock and Jensen go side by side once again into Tamburello, and Brock this time gets the move done on DRS. So they're going to be changing positions quite significantly towards the end of this race. And yes, should be quite interesting with Max Friesel as well catching up to Chiquita. And there's, surprisingly, I'm a bit shocked actually, there's been no safety cars, and I'm a bit worried for Chiquita at the moment, because he's still got the yellow warning light at the moment. And I'm just seeing where he is. He's in 5th position. He's on minus 0.07 of fuel, so he can save a little bit by lifting and coasting, but Max Friesel's going to catch him. So it's either that, or he's going to lose a position, or he's going to lose chunks of positions. So if I was him, I would back off, let Max Friesel through, try and save some fuel, and then you could potentially get P5 back, but he may be in danger of getting out of the points. So yeah, in the tabs, you can see he's trying to save. He is trying to save. It's now down to minus 0.04 now. So you can see he's losing a bit more time to the likes of the cars in front. But Max Friesel is also struggling as well. So that's probably helping him a little bit there as well. But 3 more laps to go then. Santari still leads from Isma at the moment in P2. And with the permutations, well, Matthew Rolder is doing enough at the moment to take this championship fight alive another day. But again, we don't know what the penalties are at stake. We could see other drivers who get penalties as well. As Azicombe is having a quiet race, he could get his next point of the season. He could get past Fabi very soon as well. Oh no! As I was just saying about Matthew Rolder has got another penalty. Well, luckily for Matthew Rolder, is within second, but Santari's got a penalty. If Matthew Rolder finishes 8th or lower, he's the champion. So, is that penalty the last straw for Matthew Rolder there?
I think he should, with the gap he's got back to Chiquita, he should be safe still in 4th position at the moment. But yeah, it's just kind of falling apart in this race. And even though Isma's not securing the championship as it stands tonight, he has got one hand on that trophy going into Bahrain. Matthew Order can win, and Isma only needs to finish in, I think, potentially in the top 5 next time out to secure the championship. So Isma right now is sitting very comfortably in that 2nd position. He doesn't need to push. His only fight now is just holding off Cornet for these final 2 laps. That's all he needs to think about for the rest of this race. And again, if Matthew Order does drop out of DRS range to Cornet, Chiquita could still close in. I think the problem for Chiquita closing in is, of course, like you say, he's saving fuel, and that is what is costing him the most time at the moment. If Chiquita didn't have to save fuel, I am sure that he would be in penalty range right now, but as it stands, he can't do that, so he can't challenge for that 4th place. So that is at least one savers. We've got a yellow flag. That, I believe, is for F1 Ferrari, who's had a spin coming out of Tamburello, but has kept it out of the wall. And yeah, it's just... Yeah, Matthew Order's not looked on it tonight, has he? Didn't get it right in qualifying, mistimed it, and then in the race has just kind of struggled from the word go. He's gained a few places, 4th from 12th on the grid is still a great result. That has come from the benefit of Denurko and Jensen not being on the correct strategy and other people making mistakes. And yeah, it's just not looking great for him. One person it is looking great for, though, is Cornet. Cornet's got a great one on Isma down the pit straight.
Yeah, we can see him trying to go for the move, then heading towards Tamburello then for the final time of this race. Santari, he's probably going to be loving this at the moment as the gap starts to increase once more. The tyre is starting to die a little bit as well as Cornet is up to P2. He could be on for the race, which I believe will be his first in the top tier as well. He's definitely come a long way, and that will be amazing to see. He's running out of VRS as well, and look at this, Matthew Older is in the fight as well. How amazing this as well. This could go down to the wire in Bahrain. Literally, it'll be winner takes all. Could be a dead heat as well. And Santari is trying to make sure that he's using as much EOS as he possibly can, but it's not going to be enough, unfortunately. But Isma has got a few more chances to try and get past Cornet, but obviously Cornet's got his own battles. Isma's got his own battles. Isma's gained a lot of time into the Variante Alta, but he doesn't need to win in order to have an advantage in the championship today. All we need to do is to stay ahead of Matthew Older. Jensen has got a time penalty. I think Chiquita, I'm just looking at Chiquita's fuel, he should be fine, but you never know. Santari's going to come to a line, a brilliant drive for him. He is going to win the race, but on penalty, it is Cornet that takes his first win in the top tier. Isma extends his gap at the top of the championship to Matthew Older in P2. Santari in third gets another podium of the season. Matthew Older, P4. Chiquita just about has enough fuel to get into P5. Valentin in sixth. Max Wiesel seventh. Atacombe retires. That's through Baxter as well. That is a bit harsh. Brock 8, Jensen 9, Fabi in 10th. And those are your final point scorers there. Fede just misses out actually in the P11. But Cornet, what a performance there. The constructors will go down to the final race, I believe. And so will the drivers. And Cornet did a really, really brilliant job. He started third and he was in the battle for the lead all race. He just kept behind Santari and Isma. And Cornet, he just did a better job managing his tyres. I think we're just keeping an eye on his tyre life. Yeah, he definitely did a lot better. I think it's the front left and right were pretty much the same, but for the rears, Cornet I think had the upper hand.
Yeah, brilliant drive from Cornet, like you say, and it's been a very up and down season for Cornet. The start of the season especially did not go his way, so it is really great to see him pick up a race victory and another new winner this season as well for Cornet. So that, yeah, brilliant result for him. Isma, not the win that, well, 2 laps in the end looked like it would have been Isma's win. It's not the win, but like you say, it's still an extension in the championship, and all the advantage he can take into Bahrain, he will obviously gladly take. But yeah, really good for the championship for Isma. Great race for Cornet and great race for Aston as well, manufacturers-wise. Yeah, a lot of stories in that race, and yeah, it was a really, really great race in the end, and Isma, I think, will be really happy after that one.
Yes, I'm sure Matthew Older will be relieved that his race didn't go from bad to worse. He actually started 12th and finished 4th, so for him it's pretty decent as well. Damage limitation race, and that's all we could have asked for at the moment. But we'll run through your results then, provisionally of course, because the stewards will be looking into this. Cornet wins his first race in the top tier. Isma in second, Santari in third, and we got Matthew Older in fourth, Chiquita in fifth, Valentin a good result in sixth, Max Wiesel in seventh, Brock with another decent result in 8th, Jensen in 9th, and Fabi is your final point score. Then we got Fede, H-Eagle, F1 Ferrari, and Asako. Round up your finishers, and your retirements are Ogiano, Dan Erica, and I didn't see the last one, unfortunately, but there we go. But what a race it has been. So many drivers of the day, but one of them has got to be, obviously, a Cornet for keeping it patient and doing it when it counts. But Isma did all he needs to do to extend his championship gap, and pretty much the title is his unless he has a mare next time out in Bahrain. So Matthew Older still has a chance, but with Isma having a much better race, getting a good qualifying, well, I think surely Isma will be on for his first title in PSGL next week.
Yeah, you got to say it's one hand on the trophy for Isma now, isn't it, after that race? And that all came from kind of a rookie mistake, unfortunately, for Matthew Older in qualifying, leaving it too late to go out on the track and then being too cautious on the way down through to the start of his lap. Missing that final opportunity cost him big time in this race. And then it just seemed like at the end of the race, he got a little bit hot-headed, picked up that first penalty, and then seemingly gave up from there on in and picked up another penalty. He was lucky that the driver behind Nikita had to fuel save for that race, so he wasn't really punished too heavily for the 2 penalties. But I think it's just a sign that Matthew Older just got a little bit hot-headed towards the end of that race, which is a shame to see. And yeah, anything less than a win, I think next time out, at least, obviously for Matthew Older, is not going to be good enough. He has to win next time out in Bahrain, I think, to stand a chance against Isma in this championship. And yeah, if Matthew Older does win, all Isma has to do is just finish behind him and finish on the podium. And Isma's done that so many times already this season. This whole season pretty much has been Matthew Older following Isma home, or Isma following Matthew Older home. So yeah, I feel like it's one hand on the trophy now for the Williams man.
Yeah, and he could get the double as well, but I think Cornet will have something to say about that as well. And the fastest lap, by the way, goes to the Alfa Romeo driver of Santari, so he'll be getting that extra point going into the final round as well, which will give a boost up his confidence. He actually got purple in the middle sector. Purple first sector belongs to Isma as well, so they were quite close in terms of pace, but obviously Santeri was just pushing a little bit more to make sure he could get that 5-second penalty deficit as little as he possibly can, but unfortunately it was too narrow about. Hopefully we can get the drivers in for an interview. Hopefully we can chat to our obviously race winner, our first time race winner as well, which will give him confidence going into the next game. But whilst we do that, Bahrain, the final race of the season. Obviously Luke will be back for it, of course. What could you expect from pretty much everybody else on this grid as well? Because they're not in this fight, but there could be someone that could spoil obviously Matthew Alder's party, or even Isma's party, maybe getting a win or two or getting a podium. This could change things quite dramatically for them.
Yeah, definitely could change things quite dramatically. Like you say, there's a lot they've got to look out for this next race. And Bahrain, as well as the track, is completely different to what we had tonight, isn't it? Imola is very much, it's a punishing circuit, as we saw today. There's no room for error. It's a difficult track to overtake on. Bahrain next time out is overtaking galore. The strategy around there seems to be pretty nailed on. It's a fairly easy strategy around Bahrain. So next time out, it's going to be about raw speed next time out and being as fast as you possibly can and trying to be at the head of the train for as long as possible. So yeah, it's going to be a completely different dynamic this time next week for the championship, which could make the order completely different and make the race very interesting. So yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how the next one goes down. But yeah, I'm really excited for the final round of this championship. There's still plenty more action to come.
And I'm looking forward to watching it. So hopefully the drivers will give the commentators some fantastic action. I'm looking at the rating room. We've got no one in the rating room at the moment. So unfortunately, I think we're going to end the stream there. So thank you guys so much for watching PSF1. And we hope you had a great time as well. Obviously, make sure you check out our sponsor, Grid Rival, as well. We have an F1 2022 Fantasy League, so check the link in the description. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram as well to keep you up to date on the latest streams, obviously the latest stats for all of the championships. Obviously there's some has been decided already, but there's plenty just like this one still to be decided too, so make sure you check out this one as well. So for the final PSGL races, we've got I can't remember what the final round is. Yeah, it is Bahrain, I just said it. We've got PCF1 on Wednesday with George Morgan making his reappearance in the top tier commentary box, so great to have him back. He'll be joining alongside Dan Beard on Wednesday. Then we got the rest of the PC tiers on Thursday. Then we got the PS F10 and F11 on Sunday. Excuse me, I lost all my voice after that race. And obviously we've got Luke and Aidan on Monday for PSF1, and obviously all the other top tiers on as well from 7 PM and at 8 PM. So any final thoughts? And I'm gonna put you on the spot. Who's gonna win the title, Isma or Matthew Alder?
Oh no, I'm so sorry to whoever I curse for this final round of the championship, but to put me on the spot, I think it's going to be Isma. I think Isma there's not a lot of pressure on Isma here. Yes, he has it to lose because he's going into the final round with a championship lead, but because his championship lead is that big, I think, going into the next round, he doesn't have to be the winner of the race to win the championship. He just has to finish close enough to Matthew Alder to make sure that he keeps the championship lead. So I think that's a little bit of pressure off for the Williams driver. So I'm going to say I think championship goes Isma's way next week.
Well, I'm going to predict Isma as well. So if Isma bottles it next week, it's going to be us two. But we'll let you guys go and have a little bit of maybe something to drink or have a little bit of a break as well. But obviously, like I said, more PSGL action commences again for the final time on F1 2021 for the Bahrain Grand Prix on the PC side. Stay tuned at 7 PM. But for us, well, for PSF1, it'll be same time next week, 8 PM UK time. For the Bahrain Grand Prix, I've been Jess Ball. This has been Aidan Carter. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.